Hi everyone, good evening. So today we are going to talk about application gateway. In the previous session, we discussed about load balancer. In this session, we discuss about application gateway. As we discussed in the previous session, like in AWS, we call L4 load balancer. Also, we call it the network load balancer. Same way, we call it as an L7 load balancer, which we call as an application load balancer. In Azure, same way we have L7 is an application gateway, and L4 is an Azure standard load balancer. Already we discussed difference between these two. Azure standard load balancer will take any kind of request, the communication like TCP or HTTP, but application gateway will accept only the traffic for HTTP. Means application gateway is dedicatedly for the web servers only. But Azure standard load balancer can take web servers and also even for the TCP traffic also. So now just go to the Azure portal and Azure web pages, like what they are going to talk about this, the definition from the Azure level. Azure Application Gateway. So what is Azure Application Gateway? So Azure Application Gateway is a web traffic load balancer that enables you to manage traffic to your web applications. Traditional load balancers operate at the transport layer, as we discussed, like TCP and UDP, and route traffic based on source IP address and port to a destination IP address and port. So this is completely based upon the ports because it's a TCP traffic it is going to accept. But application gateway can make routing decisions based on the additional attributes of an HTTP request. For example, URI path or host headers. For example, you can route traffic based on the incoming URL. So if the slash images is in the incoming URL, you can route traffic to a specific set of servers. So which means, see, traditional, the standard load balancer, how the traffic is coming, like whatever the servers we have, if we have the load balancer, the previous load balancer which we discussed, whatever the traffic is coming from the internet, it will check to which server, which port it is trying to access. It will check whether it is going to check 172.16.1.4 and some 8080 port or whatever it may be. So how it is going to check from which to which server it is going to access, and from where it is also coming, the source IP range it will check, and the destination to which IP it is going to access, to which port it is trying to access over here, it will verify. But whereas application gateway is also going to check path-based routing. This is very famous for the path-based routing. It's like we have a Myntra. So this is a Myntra.com, right? If I click on men, if you see here /shop/men. So if someone is trying to access that particular page, then it is not going to check any IP address. It is going to check just path, whatever is configured. So it will check the path and it will route the traffic to the specific server. That way it is going to be configured. I will show you how it is possible. So you can route traffic to specific set of servers known as a pool configured for images. If slash video is in the URL, that traffic is routed to another pool that's optimized for videos, which means in this scenario, if it is like men, then if it is women, then it is another tab. If you see, the tab is different, like /shop/women. If someone is trying to access in this way, then this load balancer is not checking the IP where it is going and accessing. It will check what is the path. So if the users are accessing /women, then it will going and send it to here. So when this scenario comes, see, actually, whatever in the previous load balancer when we discussed, at that time we discussed the complete application content is inside the single server. And we are having the same kind of servers, multiple servers, 3 servers or 4 servers for high availability. Same content is here. I think I deleted the previous slides. So same content is here and the same also here. Likewise, all the servers is going to have same content. So whenever if you are accessing with the IP, then it is going to load balancer will decide whether round robin fashion here or here, because all the servers contains the same content. So in the round robin fashion, it will send the traffic to each and every server because it is going to have same content. But now for this application gateway, content is not in a single server. Like for example, if this is an men, so when you click on men, what are the options you are getting? All this content might be over here in this server. And when you are clicking on women, this tab, so when you click on this tab, you are getting these many options. So all this data, what are the backend data to access this related to this service, then it is going to be like a woman. And same way like kids, this way. So again, what happens? Whatever this men content is there, right? So this is going to have a high availability replica servers. So like this. And same way here for women, multiple servers, because for high availability. Same for kids also. This way, multiple servers. Understood? So this way, these all together like for high availability, and same way these all, because if this server not works, this is going to take the request. If this is not works, so this way it is going to work. So whoever is accessing, the users, if they are accessing myntra.com/men, then it will check the path only. It is not checking the IP, whoever trying to access. So domain name it will check and it will come and it will route here. And whoever trying to access, whenever they click on women, then it will go and access these servers because all the content related over here. Then the same way kids, then this way it is going to route. See, when this scenario has been introduced, so basically, you know, right, a monolithic application and a microservices application. Any application previously, it was a monolithic application. So what is the difference between monolithic and microservice? Does anyone know? Yeah, all the application content will be in the single server. Monolithic, right? So the complete content will be in the single server. Let's like take another paint. For example, you have an application like whatever the discussing where this Myntra site is discussing, right? This complete application content is inside the single server. So for this, you are going to have what? For more servers, assume these are in the virtual machines environment. So this way you are going to have high availability, but all the content will be here. But whenever a developer added a new feature, like here he added some feature over here, then what is going to happen? Then whenever they add a new feature, they need to deploy the complete application to this server. whenever they adds a new feature, then they are going to deploy that the complete whole application. They need to deploy again to testing on that new feature, whatever they added small feature. Or else, if any of the website is not working like properly, if it is not working, then it is going to impact the complete site itself. Like in the server, if the server is down or maybe some application is having any problem, then it is going to impact the complete server also, the complete site it is going to impact. So later on it divided this, which is called as a monolithic application. So lot of disadvantages inside this monolithic. So what they have done, they have divided this big application into small services, which is called as a microservices. Individually divided big application into small services. Like for example, this main option is one microservice, women option is one microservice, this profile is one microservice. Likewise, they divided, assume this Myntra is divided into 15 microservices, and each individual separate microservice is going to deploy separately. So whenever, if any of the microservice is having problem, let's say if this microservice is having problem, then it is going to impact only that particular microservice. It is not going to impact remaining microservices. So in this server, so each individual microservice is going to run. So developers also going to have each individual repository for each microservice, and they are going to do the code changes, and they are going to do deploy of this specific service only. They are not touching remaining code. So this way you are doing testing only to this specific code, and you are doing testing and you are deploying, and they created new feature, and that is also one new service, and they will deploy that new service without touching the existing applications. So this way you can maintain very high availability of your application. That's the reason nowadays most of the companies are converting, migrating their application from monolithic to the microservices, so that it will be very easy to manage. So if this is the scenario, then obviously here each option is going to have a separate service. So then if it is having a separate service, then here this will be like a main, and main option here it is running like these are like containers. I'm just talking about containers. It's not relevant, but just to explain it exact where this application gateway fits. So here this main service, here main service, here main service for high availability, because if something goes wrong with this physical machine also, another physical machine, physical server, your service is running. So these scenarios, your application gateway will work. Understood? So it is going to route your traffic to your different applications. Understood? So here if you see image server pool, image server means all the images are having in these two servers. All the videos are available in these two servers. So if someone is some website they are accessing, whoever is accessing images, then they type www.contoso.com/images, then it will go here. Then same way /video, if they click on that, the request will route here. So this type of routing is known as application layer load balancing. Azure Application Gateway can do URL based routing. Okay, so more we can go through here how it will work, load balancing solution, documentation, how it works, how an application gateway works in detail, we can able to discuss. So this is what we are going to configure now. So here if you see open image, now we are configuring this application gateway, and backend we need to configure a listener, and then we will create a rule here, because this is an HTTP traffic it is receiving. So what kind of traffic it is getting, based upon this rule it will route the traffic to your backend pool. So backend pool can be your virtual machine scale set, on-premises external app services, Azure app services. So in coming sessions, we are going to talk about Azure app services. So what is Azure app service? As of now, manually, I am creating VM and I'm installing application inside that, and we are managing it. But Azure app services is not like that. Okay, so that we will discuss same purpose, but you are not going to create a VM everything, like they will create. Azure is providing you that service. And virtual machine scale state means same, it contains virtual machines, but it configured with an auto scaling option. So that is a difference. Virtual machines means individual virtual machines. It doesn't have any high availability. Basically, we should have this concept. Whenever you're practicing load balancer and application gateway, you should go with this option, virtual machine scale set, because it's a combination, fault tolerance and high availability. Front end, whatever is coming, this application gateway or load balancer is taking care and sending it for a high available. But fault tolerance, if something happened to this VMs, then that's why we should have virtual machine scale set. So this is what we are going to configure step by step. We'll see how to configure it. For this, we have an documentation, same like application gateway. We'll create one RG, and inside that RG, we'll create one VNet, and two subnets are enough, because or else we go with three, because this VMs doesn't need public IPs. So for only one VM, we'll have a public IP. For remaining two VMs, we can remove it. And obviously one is required for the application gateway. And creating an NSG, and this NSG will attach to all the three VMs. And this is availability set. Already in the load balancer also, I told you why we are creating availability set, because we are not configured virtual machine scale set. We are configuring virtual machines. So at least they are expecting your virtual machines should not be in the same rack or same server. So that's why minimum mandatory requirement is, if you're going with the virtual machine, at least create an availability set for it. Otherwise, it will not accept. That's why we are creating it. If you are creating virtual machine scale set, then availability set is not required. And same, creating three virtual machines. This is the first, we'll create this setup. And as usual, once we create this setup, we need to install Nginx inside that. That is our application. We'll treat it as our application. And then we'll go and create the application gateway. Little bit similar to load balancer, but something different is inside this application gateway. So now I already connected to here. So what I'm going to do here, shell.azure.com, and I'm going to create it. RG I'm creating, and this is a VNet and one subnet. And now I'm creating two subnets also inside this. Because we need to create three VMs. So that's why we are creating three subnets, and each subnet one VM will be there. And creating one NSG rule. And before that, I need to create, let's execute these two commands in a single shot. So this is NSG providing any, and a port is also star. It is going to allow everything. And now I'm creating availability set. So once these availability sets are created, then we'll create these 3 VMs. So once these VMs are created, we'll create, we'll install Nginx, and as usual, we modify the index.html file. But compared to load balancer, we do little bit tweak in configuring that index.html file. For microservice, website should be developed in specific programming language. See, I'm not sure about the CMS, WordPress. These sites can be converted as an microservices, but generally it will be like mostly I have seen Java Spring Boot applications converted as a microservices. Discount coupon means, see, for on-premises server, it is not going to expect that, because you are going to create a VPN connection, and whatever the VMs you are creating already over there, that is, we are going to add them as a backend pool. When you are creating VMs inside the Azure, then it knows whether this is where it got created. If you're creating in on-premises, it doesn't know, right? It is not whether in on-premises, whether you created on specific rack or server, it cannot able to detect it. So it is going to accept your servers. Microsoft challenge is coming for free exam vouchers. I think in YouTube there is one guy, Logicops. You can follow him. He recently shared one video about how to get that free voucher. You can get it for. He explained how you can claim it. So VMs are getting created now. So now what I'm going to do, these 3 VMs, I'm going to create like men or women, and one more will be like not kids. It will be like a home page. So we are going to have a home page and men and women for our site. So let me go back and see whether VMs has been created or not. So one of the VM is created now as of now. So quickly let me go and install Nginx inside this. So I have a public IP. So once we log in, just use apt update and apt install Nginx. So it will update and install the Nginx. So for us, Nginx is our application for testing purpose. So installed and just I'm checking etc init.d Nginx status. It is up and running. So I should go to the var www.html and inside this I'm going to update this file, opening this file, and I'll just make it as a like this is an home page. Assume this is a home page. So I'm going to change it to again I'll come back. Welcome to home and just restart the service etc init.d Nginx restart. Done. So let me go back to the another server. Still not yet created, or yeah, all the three servers got created. So let me go back to the second server session. Cloud Freak. And in this server, we should do little bit changes compared to the previous server. So log in as a root and apt update app install Nginx. So it will install. So path-based routing, we should not keep the content inside the var www.html. So it should be a separate directory. So now what I'm going to do, cd var www.html and now here what we are going to do for this server, this second server, this one, for these two servers under the var www.html. If I modify here this file, then whenever we are trying to access with the IP, if this machine also having the same path file, but only thing is what we'll do, like for example, if I access Myntra.com, right? If I'm accessing only site, what happens? It will go here and it will access from this page, and it will go here and access from this page. But we are expecting something like this. When men is clicked, only it should go here. When woman is clicked, it should go here. So for that purpose, what we need to in the server, it should not be the default path. It should be like you should create one more directory, and here I'm creating men and go inside this men and copy this file, uh, index file to this location, And before that, what I'll do, HTML, I'll remove. So in the main location, I'm removing this index file, and here I can see only main directory. And inside this, if you open this file, here I'm going to modify it. If you don't create and if you modify the default file, then it will not work. Now etc init.d nginx restart. Okay. So now in the third server also I need to do. Okay. In the third mission also nginx is installed. So I'll just go to the var www html, and inside this I'm going to create a mkdir woman and move this index file to woman folder, and then go to the woman folder, vi index, here I'm just modifying so that easily we can recognize. Done. On the three servers, it is done. Init.d nginx restart. Now we'll just test it. So all the three servers. First server doesn't have any path because it's a home page. So that's why I provided that. And so this is the first server. I'm taking the IP. This is welcome home, and each machine is having different IPs. Now with the same IP, I cannot able to access. Only application gateway should able to do that. So as of now, each is having individual IP. So I should take second machine IP now, and this is one. Open another tab, /men. Okay, /men. We are getting /men, and third machine IP address. Women. Now we got three. Welcome to women, and this is different IP, and this is different IP. So all together we are adding these three for the application gateway. Now we need to go to the application gateway and create it. Yeah, Aishwarya, we have that option at the time of creating VMs. You can, if you have any script, you can attach it. Then once the VM is created, it will automatically install whatever, like install, create, delete, whatever you define in that script, it will work. So now let's go and create a application gateway now. So here our setup is ready. Now application gateways, create. So here if you see subscription, free trial and Azure RG, this is a resource group I am selecting, and what is the name you want to give? Well, like see some name you provided, and region default East US because all the setup is in East US. And tier, we have different tiers like standard, standard V2, the web application firewall and web application firewall version 2. So if you select web application latest firewall 2, you will get these options. Okay. So here web application firewall is more advanced one, like for example, for a VM, you have an NSG as a security, NSG firewall, and you have an Azure firewall for your VNet. But what is a security for your applications? So for your applications, web application firewall is more secure. So if you want to configure, because this is an application gateway specifically for the web application, so obviously you can go with the web application firewall. And it is asking enable auto scaling. Enable auto scaling for your application gateway. If you see here, lot of traffic is coming to here, and if this become busy, then it is not going to serve the user's request. So this also needs to be scaled if the lot of traffic. And one more thing is, here we have an option called multi-site option. Multi-site means what? Um, this is an application gateway, and this is an HTTP. Assume this is an HTTP listener, and this is a rule, and this is an backend services. Understood? So like this, backend multiple sites also will work with single application gateway. So this will route, this can route traffic to here, this can route traffic to here also. As of now, we created 3 VMs here. This is one site. Same application gateway will work for different site also, different website. That's why it's called a multi-site. So this can be route here, this can be route here. More than two also it will work. So if this is routing the traffic to two different sites, then obviously this can become busy also. That's why if you want to enable auto scaling for this one, then you can select this. Minimum is 1. Maximum instance count means backend. See here, application gateway is also, it's a virtual appliance. So backend, how many you want it, you can decide here, 1 and max 10. So whenever the load is increasing, then obviously based on that it can go up to 10, and again it will reduce, scale up and scale down. That you can decide it. And availability zone. So whenever it is getting increased, you want any availability zones. So in all the 3 availability zone, if you select, then it will get created in all the availability zone for more high availability. Or else you can ignore this. And HTTP2 version. So HTTP protocol version 2 is the latest version. If you want, you can enable it, or still if you want to go with HTTP version 1, then it's okay. So more features are inside the HTTP protocol version 2. And if you select here web application firewall, then it is asking to create a policy. So it is asking malicious attacks such as SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and other top 10 threats could cause service outage or data loss and pose a big threat to web application owners. So it is asking some name. Well, let's see some name. And configure virtual network. So it is asking in which VNet you want to launch this application gateway. Previously, application gateway was an independent service was running. It was not part of the VNet where VMs you created or any of the VNet. But now it is asking because of this more firewall security, it is asking a VNet. So now if I select this VNet, the VNet which we created for our VMs, what it is telling, subnet must only have application gateway. So this VNet is having three subnets, and in these three subnets we created one VM in each. Now it is asking whatever the subnet you want to allocate for this application gateway, it should not contain any VMs, or it should be like empty. It should only dedicatedly use for the application gateway. So for that, what I need to do, I need to go to the VNet virtual networks and go here, create a new virtual network like subnets. Here already 1, 2, 3 is done. I'm going to create a 4. Name app gateway subnet, and here subnet address range 10.10.4.0. So remaining things you can ignore it. Save. And now again I go back here. I'll just refresh this page. So resource group Azure RG Galaxy app gateway, and region is this one, and this is web application firewall. Enable auto scaling. If it is not required, you can just say no. By default will select with 2, or yes means it's okay. And I think we created, it's not created. And in this virtual network, now by default it took this subnet. Understood? So now this way we are going to create front end, and it is asking public IP. Yes, you want public IP. Private IP will not work. So obviously we should use public IP. But yeah, before doing this, what I need to do, I need to remove public IP from one of the VM, because we have only 3. So we cannot create fourth public IP. Mhm. Public IPs. Disassociate, yes. Once it is disassociated, we need to remove it also. So from machine 3, I disassociated the public IP and removed that IP. Now I can create a new here. This is the name I'm providing, and is by default a static IP. Now, next to backends. So here we need to create a backend pool, add a backend pool here. And what is the name of the backend pool? Add backend pool without targets, means without adding targets also you can add, or you can add the targets also. So you will select yes. And here if you see, what is your backend target, like virtual machines, app services, or virtual machine skill set, IP addresses. So I'm going to select virtual machines, and here we are going to select all these three VMs. Like you can see this one, and add it. And now next configuration. So we have a backend pool and we have a front end. We don't have any routing, means the communication between these two is not established. So there should be a mapping between these two. So further we need to configure this routing rules. So if you click on add routing rules, so rule name, so give some name, and this option is, I see new option. Rule priority define the order in which the rules are processed. The priority value should be between 1 and 2, where 1 represents highest priority. And this is, I think, new option priority. I don't know why they provided. Okay, maybe if you are creating more rules, then which rule should have more priority? Previously, it was not there. So I am giving one. And here, as I mentioned, you need to configure this listener. So we are configuring this listener now. So listener name, Galaxy listener, and front end IP is public by default because we configure our front end IP public. And protocol HTTP, we did not configure HTTPS. Otherwise, you need to provide here. If you see, certificate needs to be provided for your site. So we don't have any HTTPS site. So we go with the HTTP only. And additional settings, listener type, basic and multi-site. I was telling you, right, multi-site, this is an option. So multiple sites means this way it is going to be configured. So we are going with the multi-site only, sorry, basic only. Error page URL, if you are accessing and something is not coming as per your expectation, if you want any customized error page, then you should select this way. So if you don't want default errors, it will throw. And here if you see beside listeners, backend targets you need to configure. So here target backend pool. So what are the backend pool we selected? This is a backend pool, and a backend target add. This is like a home pool, like for home page. And then add new. Begin with a letter number, end with a letter number. Name. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I did. So this is for this backend pool. Here I need to select backend target. Backend target is this option, backend. Okay. So this is the backend settings we need to configure here. So here we need to configure some settings for the HTTPS. Default 80 and additional settings. So we are configuring this rule now, this one. Whenever the traffic is coming through this HTTP, So what are the rule you configured? Based on that, the HTTP traffic will come. So if you see here, cookie based affinity means what? The application gateway can use cookies to keep a user session on the same server. Same like yesterday we discussed the session infinity session, right? Same way, cookies based means what? Whenever a user is trying to access for the first time, obviously, even when we are accessing any websites in our local, there will be cookies are going to be stored cache. Based on that, again, when we are trying to access, immediately you can able to access that page quickly. Same way, when a user is trying to access specific server here, like specific site, server is going to have that cookies. So whenever the user again is trying to access, based upon this cookie, then again it will route to the same server for the fast performance. So that's why you can configure cookies based affinity and connection training. So connection training helps gracefully remove bag and pool members during a planned service updates. So whenever if there is an backend maintenance activities going on your VMs, there is already some connections has been established, some users. It will wait for some time to complete those sessions, and then it will not allow any new user sessions to access that server. So that you can configure here. Connection training helps gracefully remove backend pool members during planned service updates. When this feature is enabled, deregistering instances of a backend pool won't receive new requests. This applies to backend instances that are explicitly removed from the backend pool via an API call, as well as instances reported unhealthy. So it is not going to receive any request when you mentioned connection training. It is not going whenever it is going for the maintenance mode, then it is not going to take any request from the user. It will route to the remaining servers. And the request timeout, the request timeout is the number of seconds that the application will wait to receive a response from the backend pool before it's turn a connection timeout error message. Clearly, based on this, you can understand. If backend pool is not responding, it will wait for 20 seconds and it will give the user front end user that who are trying to access, for them, they will give an error connection timeout. Override backend path. So this feature allows you to override the path in the URL so that the request for a specific path can be routed to another path. For example, if you intend to route a request to slash images to default, then enter slash in this text box and subsequently attach this HTTP setting to the rule associated with slash images. So whenever you want www.mintra.com/kids when you're trying to access this one, but you want to make this as an something else, mintra.com/ for example k only, simply I want to be in this way, then you can write it here override path, so that what it will do, it will this rule, if you go and attach to that particular backend pool, then it will work in that way. Understood? So whatever this rule we are configuring, as of now, this rule we are going to attach, uh, let's say these are the backend servers which we created. Now I'm creating this rule, HTTP rule. What it contains, some how HTTP should work. That rules we are configuring when traffic is coming. So this rule, when you create this rule, you need to attach to this one, and this one. What, how many backend pools you have, for those many backends pool you can attach. And same rule you can attach, if the same rule applies for all the backend rules, then you can attach a single rule to all three of them. Or else each backend pool should have separate rule. Create one more HTTP rule, create one more HTTP rule, and attach this one to this one, this one to this one. Depends upon the requirement. So as of now, what are the rule I'm creating? If this is for this one, kids, then here in the rule I mentioned /k only. That's it here. So if this rule, if I go and attach to these kids, then I no need to give mintra.com/kids. It's just mintra.com/k is enough. That's way override. What are the path you want to override? That way you can do that. And host name by default application gateway sends the same host header to the backend as it receives. So this is host name. We are not configuring anything with the host name. So now this is a rule which we created. Add. So here, whatever the backend pool first we selected, now we are going to add multiple targets. So now here I'm going to give slash min slash star, and sorry, okay, path min slash star, and target name min pool, something like this I'm going to give. And the rule which I created, I'm applying this rule. Just now I created this rule. So this rule I'm attaching to this one, and backend target backend target, it is it should show backend target. Here I did a mistake while adding a backend pool. I did not added all the three servers. I added only one server. That's why when I'm creating a rule, it is showing only one. So I'll delete this one. Now again I'm creating name uh, home pool. This is the name I'm providing, and virtual machine, and here first VM, and same way virtual machine, second VM, and virtual machine, third VM. So these are the backend pools. All the three machines has been added here. Okay. So now when I'm adding a routing rule here, rule name Galaxy routing rule, and priority 1, and listener name, I'll give just Galaxy listener. Front end IP by default public IP. This is our public IP, protocol 80, and listener type is basic. I don't want to add any error pages. And in the backend targets here, now when I'm selecting here backend, so here what are the backend pool which I created with 3 servers, that will select here. And now backend target, add, this is a listener name, and Galaxy rule, and default SE. Already we discussed about this, and I'm not overriding anything here, and create. So after this, we see path-based routing. You can route traffic from this rules listener to different backend targets. So here you can select, add multiple targets over here. So slash min slash star, target name min pool, and here the rule name which we created, and backend targets. Again, it's showing whom it should show individual server, add new. Okay. Delete this. Again, I'll create some confusion in the creating this backing pool. Okay. Home pool, and here I'll select virtual machine, and before that, first of all, let me check in server one what it is running. Virtual machines in server 1 92 IP. 92 is running with the home page. So that's why I'll select this as a home pool, and this is the first one, and add, and the second one also uh, main pool, and this is virtual machine, and mostly this is the second one, main 151 IP, 151 IP, the machine 2. So this is a machine 2, add, and add third one, women pool, virtual machine, and here the third one. So altogether I created in a single backend pool, but we should create separately this all the three in a separate. But make sure what are the naming conventions you are giving, they are in the same VMs, because this is a third mission which is running with this one 238 IP, which I actually removed. If you see here, 238 IP is removed as of now. This machine contains the women data content. Okay, and this machine contains men data, and this is home page. So same way I configured here backend pools, add. So three pools. Now if I'm going to the add a routing rule, so here creating a route, Galaxy route, and priority one, listener name, just giving Galaxy listener, and here these are the default, just giving the name, that's it. And backend targets, here I'm selecting home pool, and backend settings, we don't have anything. The listener, how the traffic should come, what kind of cookies it should enable, Galaxy rule, that's it. Remaining all are normal default. So after this, go down, and here add multiple targets to create path based. So here I'm selecting men star, and target name men pool. So this is a rule which we created, and here, so I'm selecting this is the one backend. So backend target. So add it. Same way I'm going to add it for the women also. Slash women slash star target women pool, and this is the rule name, and this is a woman pool. Add it. So once it is done, so here you need to see listener and backend targets. So this is the listener which we created now. This is the one. So what is there in the listener? Adding this front end IP and backend. These two we are merging like here, so that whatever is in the backend we are configured here. This three has been configured. HTTP listener has been configured, and a rule, HTTP rule. So whether it's an cookie based or connection training you want to enable, or any other settings, based on that, it will talk to the backend, and it will provide the information to the front end. So those has been configured in these two steps, listener and backend. So in the listener, this is HTTP. This is not an HTTPS, and the name, and what is your front end? That is the front end, and here backend. So that is what configured here. It's very simple. So in the backend, this is a rule, Galaxy rule, which we created previously was not available. So when you were adding this path, it was asking this rule. I added the same rule to all the three backend pools. As I mentioned, if you don't want, you can create three different rules and three different attach it to the three different backend pools. It's up to us. That's it. Very simple. Add. Now next, review and create. Create. So once this is created, then whatever the front end IP it will get, with that IP, we should able to access all these three if the configuration is correct. Previously, it used to take some 10 to 15 minutes of time to create this application gateway. Now we'll see whether they improved or not, the time taking. Shiva, your question is why we selected individual VMs as backend target instead of availability set. See, here we have only option to select VMs, virtual machine scale set, on-premises data center, or Azure App Services. These are the four options they are giving to select as a backend. So that's why we did not discuss the virtual machine scale set. So that's why I created VMs. And when application gateway is telling if you are going with the VMs, then better to create them with the availability set like fault domain and update domain feature. If you don't create in that way, then I was adding these servers to the backend pool, right? There it will not allow you to add those servers in the backend pool. That's why I created them in the availability set. Rajesh Chopra, should it be static IP or no necessary? For which one you're talking? For static IP? You mean for application gateway static IP? Obviously, it should be a static IP only. Because as we discussed in the traffic manager and uh, this one load balancer, once this front end IP comes, what are the IP comes, right? The application gateway gives some IP, something like this. So we will access like this, but we want some site. Then again, what you need to do? Same like previously, configure the DNS zones and configure alias with this IP with the domain name. And then what are the domain name you purchased? With the domain name, you create alias inside the DNS zones so that you can able to access with the domain name. So in the DNS, when you are creating alias 20.29.28.20 something like this, and you are creating alias with some domain name init6tech.com, then if it is not a static IP, if application gateway gets new IP, then how come DNS knows that it is having a new IP? So it should have a static IP, right? So that's why I created static IP. What you want to connect with application gateway, Rajesh? Pankaj Bajaj. Today I have created one RHL VM having public IP by default inbound rule is set to allow access for any source and destination. However, I'm not getting login after connecting. However, I'm not getting login after connecting through SSI mobile system, even though connectivity is there from my machine on port 22. Mm. If you are allowed inbound connection, okay, any source and any destination means obviously you should connect. RHL VM means which version of RHL you took? See, some images will not allow you to log in the latest images. So better to go with little bit previous versions like RHL 7. Don't go with the Ubuntu 22 version, RHL 8 version. Some images will give some problem. So try to use bit older versions. If your security group is good, then it should allow energy. If you allow the rule, then obviously you should able to access it. And you just ping the error also, like what is error you are getting, connection refused or connection timeout, what kind of error you are getting. No, actually Azure is not giving Srikanth any certificates. They are giving certificate for only Azure app services. In coming sessions which we are going to discuss about, same whatever we are manually creating VMs installing, that Azure itself is going to give the application services for us. We no need to create any VMs managing anything. So in that they are giving certificates, but that too for 6 months I think, and that option is also under preview I think so. But not like AWS, they are giving free certificates. So we did not discuss front door, right, Rajesh? So people will get confused now again. What is front door and app gateway and Azure backbone is using Azure WAN. I'm really sorry. I forgot to create the voucher the weekend. So definitely today night I'll create it, and tomorrow I will share it with you guys. So better to use instead of 8.7, go with the 7 RHL version images, or go with the CentOS. Okay. Now deployment is completed quickly. So now let's go to the resource application gateway. So this is a public IP. Let's go and access whether we can able to access or not. Okay, we are getting home page, and we'll try with the /men. Men is not coming. Not found. When we individually access, okay, do we need to give extra slash or what? Some mistake has been done while configuring. Public IP is not required. Backend, when you if you observe, when we were configuring backend pool, it was showing only private IP only. It was not expecting public IP. So it don't need public IP now. Only private IP is enough. Why I created like I to log into the server to install that engineering software, I was using public IP. But later on we can remove public IPs for all the three. So when we were adding this backend pool, maybe backend pools. that slash men slash which we provided, right? Maybe there I need to, this is rule. uh, we provided that slash men slash star, right? I think there we should not provide slash star, I think so. Maybe I'll try in that way. It will work. Mm, 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 Not this one. Mm. Okay, I'll check that and I'll let you know tomorrow where exactly it went. Maybe some settings. Here. Okay, I'll check today and I'll let you know. Maybe some mistake in this configuration only. I'll try to troubleshoot and I'll let you know about it. Yeah, already done that. Save the changes slash men, or maybe slash men slash path based is already added. So here, this is the path based backend target. The first one is home pool, which we selected. That is default path based only. So maybe something is blocking this one, because individually it was working fine when we are trying to access with individual machine IP slash main and that one. I'll see and I'll let you know tomorrow. Okay, guys. Thank you. Thanks everyone. Have a nice evening.